didn't know. I didn't know until today. Also,
That's what
Just
we did
remind
last
us.
year.
Just,
I know, but and we had the same concern. So just have it in the agenda when it's changing, so we'll
Yeah.
know.
Will do.
That's all.
Oh,
That's all.
oh.
Thank you. Yeah. So going back to that, so we all need to come together because from the first meeting we had, we all are there about this about this bond, and it's important. And I was frustrated last time. It has nothing to do with the bond, and I was frustrated with administration. I didn't know anything about it and the different things. And they did go back and correct. So you guys did that part correctly. And Larry, you are the financial guy, and Arthur are the financial folks. I am talking to some folks, but I just got the number tonight on just like the commissioner said. So if the site is going up, please make it public if you can tomorrow to get this going. And so that's where I am. Let the public decide in a regular referendum, because if we all on board saying, hey, because all of us has to be on board with this thing and make the case to the public and let them decide on what they want to do. Thank you.
Thank Councilwoman?
Yes, thank you,
And Vice Mayor?
thank you. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, we have 4 questions with 4 large amounts. So I'm hoping, so I don't really know what the procedure is going to be, but I don't think my constituents are gonna wanna vote on 80,000 for this and 40,000 for this. I don't wanna vote on that. I wanna know what we're voting on and the breakdown. And I know we started with the line items, and we've got more line items, but before we when is that decided? Is that for the second reading?
No, we do have a project list that we have. It's a working list that we've had.
When are we gonna finalize
I mean,
that
we can-
working list?
We've
Is that gonna be before
Well,
second reading?
we can make it available before second reading, but it is certainly part of it has to be part of the backup and would be advertised part of the public education process before the actual vote, the citizens were to vote for the item.
Right, so at some point, we need to make sure, because you went ahead and put in the 4 ballot questions that were
That are summary, that
deciding,
is summarized.
but
yes.
our voters have to know that the 80,000 is comprised of these
X,
8
Y, Z.
items.
I got you.
When do we decide what those
Well-
breakdown is?
I,
And
if I-
we discussed that, I know
I
we don't
understand,
wanna,
but the question you're asking, if the question is, will the specific projects be in the ballot question, that's never gonna happen, because the ballot questions is limited by the number of words. You're
No,
you're
I
limited to 70.
understand,
So
but-
it'll be in the backup, but it won't be in, so what people will be voting for will be a summary of what those projects are, but you will not be voting on a specific project. Once it's voted, it'll always come back to you. The projects will always come back to you. So once you voted on these categories, any projects that we do in the future have to fit within that description, and you will vote on it. So it's not like we've heard some folks say this will go out, it'll go out on a tangent. It can't, because the projects are, the title of the project is given, that's what folks are voting for. And so the projects that we come back to you, or future councils, have to meet those descriptions. So if we're voting for
which
infrastructure,
descriptions, the 80 million or the 12 sub-line items?
there
that
is no
we're-
12.
Well,
sub-
12, 10, 8, whatever.
That's, yeah, but that working list is not what the folks are voting for.
So we're
that
just-
could potentially change in the future. It has to fit within the 75 words, worded ballot question.
So we're gonna say 80 million for community projects, and in 5 years, we can decide, well, right now we have 5 million for each community center. The board changes and, well, we don't want that community center to get anything, we want it all going to another one. So
Yes.
that can change
Yes. Yes.
conceivably?
In reality, though, nothing we do as a 5-member council will stand forever. A future council can absolutely overturn everything we voted on tonight or anything we vote on in the future.
And
And that'll be up to the voters to then judge them as
Right.
to whether
And
that
I want-
reflected what
Well,
they
let me
wanted.
let me use a live example that we're dealing with now, which is Cagney Park. When that referendum went, it was a park. It was I guess the definition was a park in North
Park in
Miami,
North Miami.
and the location was considered to be another location. The reason why we have to go back to the county is to do a modification because we have, while the scope and all that stuff is the same, we have now moved it to a different location. So when I talk about flexibility, that's what we're talking about. Now, 10 years later, actually longer, because that, I think that referendum was like in '03 or something. '06? We now have to go back to the county, a different board is in place at the county than what was there before, and say, please adopt this significant modification
Reappropriate that.
and reappropriate it. So this is kind of, I want to say par for the course. I understand, and we will do as a staff during the education process and before, hey, here's, we came up with this list of kind of projects, but we had to define them as a public facility, renovation, construction, you know, the language that you see there in order to fit all of them that are there.
So when
Because
we get-
one scope of work might be a brand-new build, another one is, we're just gonna do the community room redo the community room as a scope of
So
work.
if we do 40 million for infrastructure, we're not gonna, 10 for streets, 10 for sustainability, 10 for,
You'll be able to vote on that.
we can vote on it,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really mean anything.
It does, it's not like it doesn't have any anchor in reality, but we can't expect
Just
that
like anything
everything
else.
we're gonna approve tonight will be exactly what the city council or even the residents want in 6 years, 7 years, 10 years. So I know we like to think that we are so omnipotent that we're voting on something and it will last forever. Nothing lasts forever, which is why everybody on 135th Street is always ready to go fight for keeping that road closed, because we know that some other future council could come along and go, get rid of, and open the street. But that's
Right.
why everybody's so diligent, because even though we keep voting it in place now, you don't know what a future council's gonna do. And
All
that's
right.
true of everything we vote on.
Okay, so we'll get a little bit of an idea of what we want now, but it's.
Yeah.
Okay.
And remember, it's that's that's the
main
beauty of
concern.
democracy. You know,
Is
this
when
is
I-
a two-reading ordinance. This is the first reading. Again, you know, we vote on it tonight, just like we make whatever necessary amendments, modifications for them to come back with, you know, for the second reading.
I just know when I go to the ballot and I wanna start voting, am I gonna vote on an $80 million, not really being certain what it is? So let me just keep going, so I get that. Do we know what the percentage is right now on the bonds? I mean, if we float a bond, it's gonna be like soon.
I had our FA do a bond run based on their, you know, their trading desk projections. Right now, like I said, the net interest cost for this bond, based on how I described that it would be issued, will be 5.00594%. What that translates to is a total interest cost over the entire life of the bond of $171 million.
Okay,
So-
so the interest rate, so I can do my own calculations, is right around 5%.
No, well,
What-
this
what's
is,
the-
Nine.
no, Carol. Because this is a very, I'm giving you a summary of the interest rate. When we go out and issue debt,
It's
the,
not fixed, it's floating?
no, we're issuing what will be referred to as a level debt service bond issuance, which means, you know, the interest gets paid, you know, fairly evenly over the life of the bond. It's a 30-year general amortization. However, inside of the actual issuance, we may issue out of 30 million, 2 million of it might be issued for a 2-year maturity to come out with this average that we're talking about. So it's not like, you know, you can't just say, oh, well, let's take 5% times 155 and amortize it like a straight interest loan mortgage. If you want, I can have the FA sit down with you, but it is, you know, you're an accounting major. It's not as straightforward as you would think.
Okay.
But
I
I
would-
can-
I would like to speak to.
But I will, this document that I give you gives you the average detail. It tells you the coupons. I'll give you the average life of the bond is not 30 years. It's 21.9 years. So it's less than 30 years because of the shorter maturities that are
So
in
we're gonna
the,
do several bonds?
well, it's several pieces. It's not several issuances, it's all one issuance,
One.
but there's pieces within the issuances that have different maturities. You may have a maturity that is a little bit longer than 30 years in some case, in order to make the level debt service work out.
If someone wants to buy when I want to buy my North Miami bond,
You're gonna go to Raymond James and buy your North Miami bond, it's gonna pay you a coupon, interest every month.
but it's only going to be one bond, we're not going to have like different series?
Well,
It's
no,
just
we
gonna be-
will have different series because my plan is to issue it in 4 tranches. So you'll have a North Miami Series 1 2018, a North Miami Series 2 2020, so on and so forth.
Okay. And the only other, well, on this
Sorry, I
schedule
meant
that
to
we
call you
just got.
Councilwoman, I think I called you Carol. I apologize.
Doesn't matter. What, would it make sense in this calculation to put the amount, you have the total debt service. I would also like a column for the amount owed at that time. Because that's what's, okay, that should go in there because it's showing debt service, meaning we're paying 10 million, but it doesn't show how much we've. I don't care about the interest because you got debt service, which includes part of the amortization. Okay. And I guess the last thing is, I am in total agreement. I do not want to see a mail-in ballot. Okay.
All right, finished?
And could we, do we have to have the second reading in 2 weeks? Is that like,
I
we-
mean, so yeah, that might not be smart. Maybe the next one after. Okay.
Second reading could take place.
Anytime between
Anytime.
now.
Yeah.
Anytime between now, okay. As long as it's not gonna affect the schedule, because I may be out of town next week. So as long as it's, yeah, so it could be before or a little
We
bit
can do it,
On the
if he's not gonna be here, you can do
February.
special meeting
after. Yeah,
whenever.
special meeting, it doesn't matter.
well, if we're gonna, okay, so another question. Since we're all, I think everybody up here is pretty much in agreement that we don't want to mail in.
Yeah.
No.
Are we gonna wait for the August election or are we gonna do a special
Mm-mm.
election?
As I stated earlier, these are things that I said were for your consideration, although I will say Councilman Galvin made an excellent point. If we push it too far, like we've gone through
August
now,
won't
we're
be a
gonna
good
keep pushing.
idea.
No,
Yeah, everybody
Miss-
just starts getting scared.
Yeah,
Oh,
mi-
I'm up, no, no.
Well, I mean,
You're not up, but.
Yeah,
I don't,
I'm
I'm
not
just
that-
putting it out for the people to vote. They vote or they don't.
absolutely.
It's not, wouldn't be
I've
campaigning
al-
to do that. But my question is, can you give us the cost of a special election versus adding it to
It's-
August?
It's
We
gonna
can
be.
get it, we can get it from the clerk's
Yeah.
office.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should get those
Well,
costs.
you have a former clerk here, so remember that. It's always,
that's right.
it's always going to be more, and I always lobbied and advocate for us to keep our election different, and especially for something this important. It's better that we let the folks vote where they know what they go and vote for, because in the August election, you're going to have people not even care about it, who just going to go. If we keep it as it is, they're going to go. Either they like it or they don't like it. And I'd rather pay a little bit more that way than, than them. And,
For it to be
some-
separate just by itself so people can concentrate more. All right,
Just like you know what it costs. Thank you.
we need a motion
We
to
have-
approve the first reading
Move to approve on first reading.
with the proposed amendment.
With the amendment that it not be a mail-in ballot.
And also that another meeting be held for Councilman Dinnerman in between.
We will agree to do that. We'll
Yeah.
we'll agree to that, but I don't think it affects the.
Oh,
ordinance.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve tab L with the amendments for the not to be a mail-in ballot. And that motion was seconded by Vice Mayor Keys. Do I have,
So I'm sorry, so it would be a mixture of mail-in and physical?
No, no, no.
No,
just
no, no mail-in at all?
No, they
I
would
mean,
do
no,
it
when
with
I-
absentee.
You can
You
do
mean the
absentee.
absentee ballot, I mean.
Regular.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absentee.
Should be
That's regular.
absentee and absentee
No,
ballots
it won't be a
and
mail-in only
the
ballot.
voting day.
Yeah, it won't be a mail-in.
Okay.
so no absentee in that
After
one?
mail-in
Yeah,
meant
it won't be a
absentee
mail. No,
only.
no, no. They can do absentee. Just
All right.
regular election.
Okay, sorry about
So-
that, go ahead.
All right, we're going on roll call. Mayor Joseph, how do you vote?
Yay?
Vice Mayor Keys, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Desume, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Bien-Aimé, how do you vote?
No.
Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Item passes 4-0. Oh,
No.
I'm sorry, 4-1.
Thank you very much. I think the next item is citizen forum. Reasonable opportunity for the people of North Miami to be heard. Please come to the mic. The price is right. You got 2 minutes to speak.
Bob Basham, 13005 Coronado Terrace. So now that we're going to have the information that we're going to put forth to the city for the bond proposal, we're going to have to communicate with the citizens of the city about when and where there will be educational activities to tell people what they're voting on, to tell people what the summary of the buildings are, to try to explain why you guys want to explain to why people should get out and vote for your bond. So we have to communicate to those people. And I'll say it again, we don't communicate well at all. I have people that come to planning commission meetings and they have to get circulars handed out in their neighborhoods because half of them gave up the Miami Herald a year ago. And we put public notices in the Miami Herald only. So if you don't get the paper, you don't know the meetings are going on. So I just came back from a technology conference about generational marketing. Some people get emails, some people get text, some people get newspapers. People get their information a lot of different ways, and we don't communicate to people a lot of different ways. So I'm suggesting, and this is a great opportunity to test our ability to do this, because there's a lot of education and communication that's going to need to go on in this bond issue, that we try to take a look at our communication strategy for communicating with the residents and try to improve it, please.
Madam Vice Mayor, just a point of clarification for one thing that Bob brought up. The city, Bob, before you leave, the city will not be allowed, once this goes to the ballot, the city will not be allowed to advocate one way or the other. They can provide information, but they will not be able to tell or advocate that residents vote either way, just for clarification for everybody. Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Medina, Dr. Medina.
Dr. Medina, 1270 Northeast, 124th, here in North Miami. I'm going to tell you before you waste your money and time how much of this is going to be approved. Zero, nada, zilch, not a penny.
Mr. Garrett.
Jim Garrett, 11610 North Bayshore Drive. I think residents of this city will approve one bond. I'm giving you some political advice. I'm giving you it from Jimmy's Diner, Bagel Balls East, Boulevard Bagels, and a couple other places I go for breakfast, including Pinecrest Bakery. Pinecrest should pay me for advertising for them throughout the city and on the web. The residents will not approve this. You're going to waste $200,000 to $250,000 in a special election in April or May, and you're going to get a resounding no by 62 to 38%. And I'll make a bet with every one of you and take you out to lunch. 62 to 38%. That will be the vote. You think I'm bad? No. Wait until you get some of the residents of Keystone Point, and Carolyn Scott knows who they are, come out and speak against this. You think I'm bad with the medicine? No. I'm giving you common sense language. You need to go back. You need to go back, identify your priorities, list your priorities, and go for the biggest priority. My belief is the biggest priority is the water plant, the water and sewer system. We need to replace this, because if we don't, we're going to face an issue just like Fort Lauderdale is facing with moratorium. The South Florida Building Council is going to come down, or whoever the Regional Planning Commission is, and they're going to put a building moratorium on us, just like they're going to do with Fort Lauderdale. We need to address the first issue and go out there, and I'll be the first person that will jump on the bandwagon and support you if you concentrate on one bond, and then we can talk maybe 3 years down the road with the other bond issues. That's my advice.
One Cito Frenchius, 12501 Northeast 5th Avenue. Tonight, I'm so happy to see, when I was running for office in North Miami, and I was advocate on a lot of issues, and I've seen them pop up in the dais during this period. Now, I have to apologize. Before, when I heard the bond, I was against it, and I took my time, make my research, and look at the city, the district, what I was running for, and I took it back. And I believe we need to work on some fresh infrastructure in the city, and I believe the money would be right if we use it in the right way. However, I believe we need to more clarification and to the citizen in order to ask them to vote for a large amount of money, because as a owner, as a business person, I have to pay that money back. This is what I want to say.
Laura Hill, 13075 Griffin Boulevard. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with the previous speaker. I've actually spent a lot of time talking to residents in my area, and I've spent a lot of times researching this bond, and I believe if the numbers are correct, which I wouldn't know because it wasn't provided to us, that my average neighborhood pays about $500 per year in municipal taxes. And if the numbers that have been previously provided to us are accurate, at the peak, it'll add about $900 more a year in taxes. If tonight's numbers, which were different from the workshop's numbers, here's the real problem. We don't know what the numbers are because they haven't been provided to us. That sheet of paper that'll tell us how much this is going to cost us will make or break people in our neighborhood. There's people who can't even pay for their water bill, and you're going to ask to take $500 in taxes, and then a conservative guess go up about $250 more per year in addition to the $500 we pay. I don't believe people in my neighborhood can afford that. So I think it's too much money. I think you're asking residents to really, really sacrifice a lot and not even giving us the information on how much it's going to personally cost everyone. I don't want anyone in my neighborhood losing their house to get a new air conditioning in the Griffin Center or new Wi-Fi in the police department. I don't know what your projects are. I don't know how much they're going to cost. I think it's way too early to have passed a first reading. I think you should have had that website up for at least 2 more weeks and let people really understand the full cost of what this is, what you're asking residents to pay for. Thank you.
Public hearing. Please hold your applause. Do not applaud, please. This is a public meeting.
William Prevotel, 11950
Hold him.
North Bay Shore Drive.
Mm.
What Citizen Hill was just saying just somehow reminded me of a Wizard of Oz moment. And our city's gotten to the point where we've gone through this series of challenges, and you know, the solution was right there before us all along, but we kept ignoring it. And all you have to do is like tap your shoes and do the things that the city should have done years ago, and allow and encourage the new development. Why do we still insist on having parking at the grade level and housing on the grade level? That's going to get flooded. That's going to be a problem for us. Why haven't we exempted all structured parking throughout the city so that we start to encourage everything off the ground plane, so we get cars off the street, so we get the sprawl away from the buildings? Why don't we do that right away? Why don't we try to increase the zoning? Why don't we try to get more benefits for that? It'll greatly enhance our city, and it's that much less of a burden going forward, and it's been in front of us all along. I'm very encouraged to see that you're encouraging new development. I'm happy to sort of announce that on our own property over on the east side, we're looking for a joint venture partner, so we could possibly take advantage of this opportunity to do something that the city needs and something promising that the city can deserve. The city deserves some sort of upper-end inspirational type project. We're going to try to take that on. We'll probably be listing for joint ventures and such, and if anybody knows or has suggestions of a great partner, we'd be very willing to listen to those proposals. And please wish us luck as we wish the entire city luck going forward, and hopefully addressing the challenges before us economically, environmentally, and getting through this. Thank you.
Good evening, Kevin Burns, 2065 Alamanda Drive. As you have chosen to move forward with this, you just need to tighten up your game. I concur with a lot of the people in the audience that this doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of passing, but we'll see on that. But the city has got to really tighten up the numbers, tighten up everything that deals with this, because there's members that are sitting up on the council that voiced their concerns against the MOCA bond because the numbers kept changing consistently. The city couldn't put out the correct number. Tonight, the agenda, handed out, says this bond issue is for $135 million. This is your public document, and you want us to allow you to spend $135 million. But the advertisement that you hand out in this room has the wrong numbers. So you better make sure the numbers on your website, you better make sure every line is dotted. If you expect the residents to believe that the city is going to carry out this obligation that we are paying for, it's $135 million plus the $171 million. You're talking $300 million or more we have to pay back. Thank you.
Citizen Forum is now closed. At this time, we will entertain any report from any members of the dais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Spring, Mr. Sori, my vote on first reading is not a guarantee of my vote on second reading. This is an uphill battle to get this passed. It's sorely needed in some regards, but if we try to get greedy, people will see through it really fast. Your biggest challenge is not going to be between second reading and the election. It's going to be between first and second reading as you get all of these things tightened up and bring it back. Because if it's coming back, a couple people pointed out a couple of the loosey-goosey. When I talked to you this morning and talked to you 2 days ago, I was against this. There was no way I was voting for this. Recognizing that the city needs some help, I've given a little leash, but please don't take that leash as meaning you've already got me for second reading and you've already got me jumping up and down on 125th Street and 6th Avenue at the corner with my sign. Please do everything you can to meet with everybody one-on-one. It's going to be a pain in the butt to answer every one of these questions. You're not going to make everybody happy, but you've got to do it. Get that website up as quickly as you can. Have a press release ready to go within 48 hours, because I guarantee you, even though there's not a Miami Herald representative here tonight, they're going to look back, and if they put out the wrong information that first time, you just lost half of your voters. Your work begins when that gavel hits the ground in about 7 minutes, and you better be ready for it, because it's not going to be easy.
All right. Thank you.
Happy New Year,
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody, and I hope to see everybody on the bike ride Saturday morning. We're going to have a great ride. We're going to go up to Alonzo Morning, FIU, and hope to see you then.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With this bond issue, and a lot of folks knows where I am on the particular issue, I don't think any of the issues an endorsement either way. This is for the residents. I do agree with Scott. It's going to be an uphill battle, and I think I told you that, Mr. Manager and Mr. Deputy Manager, because it's a lot of money. So that's why I wanted to be sure. Just because I voted for it to be on the ballot, I want the residents to make their voice be heard at the ballot, and I'm fine with that. But I do want to acknowledge and say thank you to the North Miami Police Department for two things. First, a little incident occurred with me on January 1st. They stole my car in North Miami, but it started somewhere else. But the police was phenomenal, from the Detective Dolly to I think he's a major or Sergeant Holmes, and all the other officers. I really got a chance to see them firsthand professionally at work in Interim Chief Juriga. But I want to acknowledge the department for something else that I saw that occurred, and I was impressed by it. One of our residents from our senior program, her birthday, she lived by herself, and her birthday was a couple weeks ago, and her husband died many years ago, and this is a lady who live alone, and we go by and checked up on her. During on her birthday, or I don't know if it's the day before or after, the North Miami Police Department went by with a cake or with some balloon, and that lady could not stop talking about that. I was out of the country, and they called me to tell me. I thought the senior program I did something, and then when we called her and you know, she told us the story. So that I have to commend when we talked about. I know we talked about all of these things that are going wrong and all this, but sometimes you got to talk about the good stuff. So kudo to the North Miami Police Department. Thank you.
And Mr. City Manager, I have a question for you. Can you tell me since when the city have an interim chief of police?
It's been about 6 months, sir.
About 6 months.
Yeah.
You are talking about issuing a bond for over $150 million, right?
Well,
and it took you 6 months to hire a police chief for the city of North Miami. We keep saying that you are the number guy, but understand that we did not hire you as a finance director to go over numbers. We hire you to be the city manager for the city of North Miami. It's unacceptable that after 6 months, we still don't have a chief of police. And I want to tell you publicly, I'm completely disappointed by the fact after 6 months, we don't have a chief of police for the city of North Miami. Really, really, really disappointed. And understand that we are a political assembly on the dais. And as a city manager, you cannot play politics with your hiring. And I want to let everybody know that I have nothing to do by the fact that as of right now, you haven't hired a chief of police for the city of North Miami. Thank you, Mayor.
May I address that?
No, you may not. That is a meeting that you're going to have directly with the council. We cannot do the back and forth. And well, Feliz Año Nuevo, Happy New Year, and Bonne Année à tout le monde. And this is the beginning of the year. There is this article that Mike McDermott was reading from. Is actually an upside. I know every projects, every cities, every government, every household, every relationship have their peaks and valleys. And I think we are at our peaks, okay? There may be little hurdles for us to go over, and of course it's very clear, and we've all made it clear, both on the dais and as well as the citizen. You have spoken very loudly, you have put it very well that we have to be responsible in our planning. But what we are doing here, again, this is the same phrase that I always say. We who labor back here day after day, we only have the intention of taking this city to new heights, to a new level, because other cities are moving on. Our city is old, infrastructures are bad, and sea level rise. Of course, there is no way a responsible municipality would come up with an over 150 million, well, 135, 155, whatever it may be, a dollar a bond, and to not allocate a sizable amount of that money to infrastructures in order to prepare for sea level rise and be as resilient as we can be. So we need to see that. The people of North Miami need to see that. Like I said, we cannot just sit idle and pretend that North Miami is going to fix itself. We're going to look like the most modern city that will ever be without doing something. We are a responsible government, and what we are doing here, folks, is a good thing for North Miami. And later on, our children and our children's children will thank you and will thank us for it. But we simply have to be as responsible and as transparent as possible. And that's what this article from Biscayne Times actually alluded to. The city of North Miami, as a city that is moving up, we simply have to keep up the speed, keep going, keep our head high. Yes, there will be some little disagreement. That's why it's 5 of us here. That's why you don't have just one person sitting here and making decisions. That's why it's 5 of us. That is the backbone of democracy. Okay? So that's being said, then let's start the new year on a positive note and let everybody be good, happy, and I would say we go with the bond and we'll go out there and win one for the Gabor. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn,
No. We still have city attorney and city manager. City manager can still give his report, but not a straight response to your superior.
Well, Happy New Year to
Okay.
the council. You know, to your point, in my staff meeting, first staff meeting of the year, we addressed the staff and we acknowledged that it's a new year. We have a lot of work to do. Everybody, I think, is refreshed and motivated. And one of the things in our focuses this year is customer service. And we will be doing training and be refocused on the citizens, which is what has been the message here today. To that point, I'd like to acknowledge the finance department because for the first time in 10 years, we received the Government Financial Officers Award for our financial statements. We have not gotten that award in well over 10 years, and this year was the first year we received it. So kudos to Miguel, the finance team, for bringing this back to North Miami. Just another sign that we're certainly moving the city forward in the right direction. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Attorney,
I have no report, Mayor.
we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. And good night. That's right.